You may be wondering what this thing behind my head is, and let me give you a sense of what this course is going to be like by saying that if you guess it and post it in the forum of the course first on Husky CT, you will win some sort of a prize. Well, a prize will probably be made out of pixels rather than candy, but I think it'll still be pretty fun.
And thus at line 325 of Book 1, we have a wonderful and extraordinary passage which not only tells us about what people are saying about Odysseus back at home while he is still out trying to get home, but it also gives us a very, very important piece of information about how the Odyssey itself came to be. Book 1, line 325. The famous singer was singing to them, and they in silence sat listening. He sang of the Achaeans' bitter homecoming from Troy, which Pallas Athena had inflicted upon them. The daughter of Icarius, circumspect Penelope, heard and heeded the magical song from her upper chamber, and descended the high staircase that was built in her palace, not all alone, since 2 handmaidens went to attend her. When she, shining among women, came near the suitors, she stood by the pillar that supported the roof with its joinery, holding her shining veil in front of her face to shield it, and a devoted attendant was stationed on either side of her. All in tears she spoke then to the divine singer. Phemius, since you know so many other actions of mortals and gods which can charm men's hearts and which the singers celebrate, sit beside them and sing one of these, and let them in silence go on drinking their wine, but leave off singing this sad song which always afflicts the dear heart deep inside me. Since the unforgettable sorrow comes to me beyond others, so dear a head do I long for whenever I am reminded of my husband, whose fame goes wide through Hellas and midmost Argos. Then the thoughtful Telemachus said to her in answer, Why, my mother, do you begrudge this excellent singer his pleasing himself as the thought drives him? It is not the singers who are to blame, it must be Zeus is to blame, who gives out to men who eat bread to each and all the way he wills it. There is nothing wrong in his singing the sad return of the Danaans. People surely always give more applause to that song which is the latest to circulate among the listeners. So let your heart and let your spirit be heartened to listen. The first thing to say about this passage is that in it we get a precious opportunity to see what it looked like when the bards, as we call them, the singers of tales, people like Phemius, the bard of Ithaca, were singing the Odyssey and also the Iliad and also the Theogony and the Works and Days and a whole lot of other epic tales that we've now lost into existence. We'll talk about it a lot more down the road, but it's very, very important to understanding both the way that the stories of the epics came together and their relation to the truth values of the time, to understand that these were orally improvised epics, that they were songs that were sung on a nightly basis in houses like Odysseus's house on Ithaca, and that the bards were professional singers of tales who learned their stories from other bards and then changed them over time because, as you may or may not know, at the time when the myths that we love so much from ancient Greece were coming into being, there was no writing. We're talking about a completely oral culture at the time, and it's only later, right towards the end of the period that we're most interested in the development of Greek mythology, that writing comes along and it's possible to preserve the tales in the form that we now know them as, epic and tragedy, and some of the other forms that we'll talk about as we go along. The more important point for our present purposes, though, is the way that we have here what is, in kind of technical artistic terms, called a mise en abîme. That is, a putting of a representation of the story into the story itself. We here have Phemius singing a song that, although it's not the Odyssey, because of course Odysseus hasn't had his homecoming, makes us think nevertheless about what it means that we are listening to the same kind of song that Phemius is singing in Book 1, that is, a song about a homecoming. And it makes us think in particular that Odysseus has not had his homecoming, but that, of course, we, as we listen to Book 1 of the Odyssey, are listening to the story of Odysseus's homecoming. And that reflection of the story within the story is something that the Odyssey bards, the singers who brought the Odyssey into existence, were thinking about all the time.